Hello and welcome back to Pro Nature Photographer for another conversation with legendary landscape photographer David Muench. Today he joins us to discuss another portfolio of his, number 12, the Wind River Range of Wyoming. And it's one of David's favorite locations, and I'm excited to have him back again. So welcome, David.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, the Wind River Range in Wyoming is it's my hidden or second favorite place. Like the Sierras, I grew up in the Sierras, packing in with my folks and photographing early on trips, especially the East Side Sierra. But here, the Wind River are comparable and have been a favorite of mine for many years. I think I started the first photographing in here in the 70s. But anyway, we will take a sort of a tour here, but it's literally one or two areas to go in, three. And to begin with, I would like to say the winds have expressed a perfect granite world for me. Here are remnants of a glacial landscape displaying polished rock, glacial erratics, hanging alpine meadows, and pristine lakes. This is raw wilderness power to me. This is some of it almost becomes personal rather than commercial. This is a great place, and I'm really happy to share it with you.
Well, the first image we have here is a mountain range with green moss and water flowing.
Yes, this is a spring flowing right at the edge of the granite slick rock, flowing downhill toward the Cirque of Towers. That's Fremont Peak on the top. This is in the center, a little bit south in the range. The fun of having, this is all but most of this work is 4x5 transparency work, and so these are actually sometimes. These are rest stops because the hike in is about 10 miles. This is toward Deep Lake. The Cirque of Towers is a different direction right in view here, but it's like a T on the hiking from the Pinedale area. You come in and then you go north or you go south. This one's looking north from the Deep Lake area. And we start with this one with the greens. To have a spring right on top of rock like that and have the growth right there it was very special. And of course it's a lead-in, it's three-dimensional, and it's a nice lead-in and very sensuous.
Exactly. And how deep in the wilderness are you here? Pretty extensive backpack?
You're in the Bridger Wilderness. The Wind Rivers are right on the Continental Divide. And you have the Bridger Wilderness on this side. On the east side of the Continental Divide is the Fitzpatrick, and you are in major wilderness here. This is primal country and is designated wilderness. It doesn't have any problem with it. It is. Muir went in here and mentioned about the sheep running all over everything. Well, that is gone. Those times are gone, and this is primal. This is primal granite landscape.
Yep. High altitude as well?
Yes, you're getting close to 10,000 feet here, and at Deep Lake it's over 10. Most of it's running 10,000 to the peaks are up. Some of them almost, some of them are definitely 13,000 feet on up north, but here it's 10,000 to 12,000 plus. In the Deep Lake Temple Peak area.
Wow. Looks like stunning country. Kind of reminds me of my days in backpacking Yosemite.
Well, it's the same. It'd be the same thing. You'd find yourself right at home with the erratics bouncing around along on the granite. And granite, slick rock everywhere. It's a polished world, but still very rugged, and the trees hang on. These are mostly timberline here where we're at this point. Yeah.
Very, very nice. Okay, our next image here looks like a sunrise, beautiful lake with some fog.
Yes, this is Green River Lakes on the north end, and a very pristine kind of a thing. These are the joys for photographers when they're out and you do get up 5 o'clock, whatever the time is, but pre-dawn, and you have your spot picked out from the night before. Sometimes you don't even have that, and you're just out exploring in the morning and spontaneously pick a location. So you start finding maybe 2 or 3 of them even, and then the moods start happening. This is probably after a rainy day the day before, and you have this morning tule fog or ground fog that will float across lakes, and it makes a little breeze too, but the beauty is paramount. And this one was just a perfect morning thing. Oh, probably not that early, probably an hour after sunrise, but still fresh and pristine. And what happens, I'm pretty sure I used the polarizer to polarize the sky, and then of course take off the reflections on the water surface, so you see underwater, and that's the magic, is the underwater design, and that's where you have to select things that are interesting. And of course the fog on the side does reflect because it's so strong, and the sunlight is over on the side too, so you have a real mix of light, and the balance is paramount. So again, magic in the morning, and it's a matter of waiting around after the first light. Don't go away, because things change fast for an hour or so.
Right.
And it's fun to go through it and just record what you see. Some of the great things have happened that way for me.
So let me ask, when you are composing an image like this, do you pay attention to your foreground first or your background first, or how does your vision work? And because the reason I'm asking is, it's a great background with that fog, but did you find yourself moving your 4x5 left and right to get that rock right there in the foreground?
What I do when I'm going out anywhere almost, and I'm in a great place, I'm looking around all over, even driving or hiking or in a camp area where I've camped overnight. I'm looking for foregrounds. I'm looking when I know the thing is great. I know the landscape is great. I have a hard time just doing the straight landscape with the big sky, and they're pretty. They're static horizontally. I just don't get excited about that. So I'm looking for foregrounds, sometimes even a tree frame or something, without being busy and unconstructed, just non-constructed. I want something interesting, and I go around on this case, I'd look along the shoreline of the lake, and there are the subjects. If you're just aware of what's there, you go move along, and there are shapes and designs and primal forms that lend for a foreground, and then I can connect with that landscape by using the ends of a lake or whatever it is that interests me to connect together, and the middle ground then becomes something to work with to connect them together. And sometimes if it isn't much out there in the middle, you just lower the camera level and pull it together. You pull the near and the far together more, and if you love the middle ground, you just get higher, as high an angle you can get, and have it just spread out and lead the eye right on in. And that's usually what I'm always looking for, foregrounds. To connect with it, and then I just see what happens when you connect them together.
Right. That process of building a photo rather than taking a picture, which is something I tell my students pretty often. So.
Well, I always like that old. I don't know who started it. Maybe Ansel did. I don't know, but I like to make a photograph rather than take it. And something about grabbing, like hunting, as you grab something, it's a trophy. But sometimes a spontaneous image is taken so fast you can't even remember it.
Right.
But on the other hand, most good images are made, and just a little attention to all the corners and the things in there. There are things you want to take out or have moved aside. You move yourself a little bit and simplify. Sometimes simplifying can be much more dynamic than trying to be too fancy with things in. I like to be complex too. It just depends on the situation.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice shot. Another nice moment in time.
Yes, it is. It's a timeless moment. Yes.
Hmm. Well, the next image here is some rocks up very high.
This is Fremont Peak, famous
Hmm.
name, of course, right in the heart of the Wind River, right along the Continental Divide. As I described, I believe, once before, this image puts you right on the Continental Divide. You're literally uh, riding bareback on the Continental Divide splits the Bridger Wilderness on the left and the Fitzpatrick Wilderness on the right. The glaciers are more on the right. It's the heart of the Wind River Range, and
Hmm.
very pristine. It's 4x5. I just had to get involved. It's something I do in many of my photographs, is to get involved. I like to get into it so you know where you are. You have a sense of place, and that is, again, of course, the near far here. But
Right.
that's the top of Fremont. The weather is pretty severe up here, and when you look at the images, it makes my spine tingle because of the it's like riding bareback on a
Yeah.
real severe bronc, because it's primal. I mean, if you can see where its glacier has worked the right side away, and was way up on top there in previous ice ages, but now it's, of course, receding, and this is what's left. It's battered every winter by storms,
Yep.
very severe. It's very exciting to photograph
Hmm.
something like this.
And you come up here and or fairly close and spend the night to get these,
On
or.
this one, yeah, this one is camped below in the Titcomb
Hmm.
Basin, and just started up.
Hmm.
And I remember carrying both a 35 millimeter Leica Flex and a 4x5 Lindhoff,
Right.
and this one is a 4x5. This I remember in doing this. This was like late September or October. There had been a light snow. I didn't carry any water. I just was determined to try and go up there without going around on the trail that comes in from the south. Is a little bit easier but much longer. So it just looked plausible, and you size it up, and I went right up.
Sure.
So this is the reward. But I remember having snow, licking snow off rocks, literally, for water. It was,
Uh,
but it was cool, and it had about I think it was about 8 or 10 inch snow before.
wow.
You almost
Yeah.
wouldn't know it when you look this way. It's melted all by this time, but it was the day before, and I thought I might not go, but I did. And
Right.
it had melted right off, and of course there's water all over. Otherwise I didn't carry any.
Sure.
Yeah, it was
Now,
part of the deal.
something you just said was you were determined to get up there, and why? What was the draw, or was it part of a project, or?
No, this is all personal.
Hmm.
I've I remember, well, I think it was Ed Abbey that was not concerned about making the top. I think in Moab and the La Salles, it was good to just do it, to
Hmm.
just be on the hike. It's not point A to point B. For me, climbing these, and it's just scrambling. I never have been a climber. I have always scrambled. It's the youthful challenge of something, and the excitement of being able to do it first.
Hmm.
And then, of course, the 4x5 camera was just part of me. It's historic now as I look at it. It's very, very historic. But I just have a yearning. There's something about being on top, and I don't want to get philosophical about it, but there's something very powerful in being able to sit on something or rest on something very stable, very solid, and be able to your viewpoint to be 360 degrees, and to just sit there and absorb all that, realizing these rocks have been doing it steadily for centuries.
Yes.
And you're sitting there. You have the mobility to be able to enjoy this, and of course you've got to be aware of weather, But on the other hand, it just is a joy to be able to do this. And I've always liked to. Very seldom have I ever turned around and just said, I don't really need to go up. There's been a strong determination to do it. And I don't brag about it. I don't tell anybody about it. But I do have to say that it was a determination to reach that. And then to photograph it is that's the real thing, to take back a photographic memory, not just something in my head that I have to write about.
Sort of like the journey is as important as the destination, with the photograph being the destination. They're both important.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like a great shot, or a great place to go photograph, better way to say it. Our next image here is Deep Lake.
Yes. This is another destination in the big sandy entrance into the Wind River from the west side. It has been a favorite since I believe that first trip was in the 80s. Deep Lake has been a favorite for the family for way back, and myself 2 or 3 times. It's pretty high. It is in the southern, more alpine area of the Wind River. That's East Temple and Temple Mountain. Very glacial and just about at timberline. The remnant, you feel like the glacier has just left. And these glacial erratics, these boulders just laying there, you can just feel the ice receding back across the depression that the lake is in, and going, and of course back to the mountains. There is still a glacier left on Temple Mountain on the right there, just a small one, but there. And staying here and spending 2 or 3 mornings and evenings, of course. A lot of vigorous weather goes by, and anytime you're there. And I found the mornings, the sunrises have been pleasurable. This is an evening shot. But again, playing up the foreground and using objects, rocks in this case, to kind of give you a sense of a broken up landscape, and yet the reflection is the lens to a quiet image. So you have a conflict here, and I enjoy that. And it's a bald day. By that I mean it's a clear, completely clear. Could be boring, so you wait till the very last light, and then some light really begins to talk to you.
Right.
And that's what happens here. And of course, the reflection starts to show some of that power of the beauty that I like so much.
Yeah, I can see all kinds of different approaches to this, but the boulders in the foreground seems to add the power.
It's a story.
Exactly.
Yeah, it tells a story about it. And of course, you come there. Most people who come there, I always enjoy watching how people. It's quite a achievement to hike up there. It's about 8 miles, 9 miles, or maybe 10 from the trailhead, and you just want to sit on a rock by this kind of a scene. And why do I want to put these rocks right in your? People hop across here. This is just at the outlet, and why do I put rocks in? Well, I get over the quiet, serene, and want to make a photograph that speaks to you in the power of what has happened through time here, and that's I put the rocks right in your face. I'm sorry about that, but that's what I see is, and it's a near-far kind of a thing. It's a connection for me to the country.
Well, I think the approach emphasizes that power.
Yeah,
So,
good.
Okay. Our next image here is a waterfall.
This is in the other direction from Deep Lake. You're actually in the Cirque of Towers. And it's Warbonnet Peak, and I forget what the other one is, but here's, again, monstrous glacial remnants. I mean, you can just feel the retreat of ice from this area, and it's so alpine and gorgeous. The waterfall, of course, is a little different than the other images I have here. I enjoyed photographing this. This is late afternoon. the motion in the water is in the shade, so it has a smooth,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost a satiny quality. It represents time to me. I wanted to show the idea of time without being satiny completely, where it
Right.
just looks like fog.
Right.
You could make that waterfall into fog, and that's too long.
Right.
But maybe a tenth of a second to a second will give you, and you have to just see how you like it, to get a smoothness but still have form in the waterfall
Mm-hmm.
and not have mush.
Right, right. It depends on the waterfalls a little bit too, doesn't it? I mean, as far as how much you're seeing through the water to the rock behind it, and how much blurring and blending you're going to get, or that flow.
Yes, it's so important. You can take a waterfall that's really running heavy and running full, and it'll be boring as all get out because there's no composition inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one has a little bit of composition. You have some shadow in behind the water, so you let it run a little bit slower speed, and you get a composition within. So I think it holds up very well at this point in the shade. And I used a polarizer. I can tell from looking at it.
Right.
There's a polarizer, so I got 2 more stops slower.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just enough. But you have to watch it with waterfalls that to keep composition in it, you need to make something. Otherwise, it can be boring. Just like autumn tones in trees in a forest, it can be very boring if you just have a whole splattering of autumn color.
Yes,
And it's
that's
like
true.
the same in waterfalls.
Mm-hmm.
You need to find a composition within the water so that it's flowing around like rocks or shadow areas. You make it interesting with a little bit of composition inside of the cascade.
Yep. Yeah, beautiful shot. Looks like a wonderful place to go. I haven't been there, but I'm certainly very well of the Cirque of Towers in that area.
This is climbing country.
Uh-huh.
This is big-time climbing country, and I enjoyed about 2 trips in there. And really, it's a photographer's paradise because
Oh, yeah.
these rocks are and climbing. You can just feel it, and it's a center place for climbers and photographers alike.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very nice place.
Okay, our next image, very interesting composition or interesting subject, kind of a gnarled, kind of reminds me a little bit of some of your bristlecone pine, except it's in water.
Yes, this is just a tipped over driftwood. I don't know if this came from the shore close up, but it could have drifted across on ice in winter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. But anyway, that you could just take yourself back to the second image we talked about with the rocks underwater at Green River Lakes,
Mm-hmm.
and you walk along the shore. I may have walked along. This is obviously there's no fog, so it's a different morning. And just walked along further and had this. Oh, this is 96, so this is a whole different trip.
Mm-hmm.
What happens here is I just love foregrounds that are simple and lend to the beauty of it. This is the wood part that just gives it a sense of place. Everything is changing, and your wood or rock will give you a sense of close, again, the foreground.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is in the evening. This is not a morning one, so I've been lucky at times to have evening quiet. I mean, this is a reflective image. This is a quiet one. It doesn't hint of it's reflective evening, and this is again a reflective image
Mm-hmm.
where you just want to sit and absorb. This is not challenging and changing and demanding of action. This is the quiet one. This
Right.
is the one that is just beautiful to just absorb and meditate here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, our next image is...
Well, this is my classic. It's 1984. This is the classic. I think it's appeared in a couple of my books as a cover. This is a deep lake again from along the side of the lake. and you're looking north to the Circuit Towers, Warbonnet Peak, and Pingora, but this is the heart of the Circuit Towers. Only you're south on Deep Lake, and one of those early morning reflections, storms kind of coming and going, and reflective just for a moment at Deep Lake near our camp. And it's just a classic. I mean, these weigh very heavily in the memories that I've had of places I've photographed. It's indelible. I don't even need the photograph to remember the power of this thing. And the location of Deep Lake is so significant. And of course, to give you north viewing, so you can use a polarizer and accent things, or maybe not if there's too much breeze and you need to stop it more, so you have different options. But again, a reflective image, but to me this is an action one. It's power and changing, and this is the real alpine mountain landscape.
Well, it looks like a very dramatic landscape, and with the images that we've been seeing so far, are we at very extreme ends of that mountain range, the Wind Rivers? Are we more concentrated in the middle, or how many trips did you make in here as far as
I've
covering
made
all that?
4 or 5. The Green River Lakes are on the north end. That's the headwaters of the Green River. And
okay.
It hooks around comes in from the north and goes south and drains. By the way, that Mammoth Glacier that I was talking about is the real headwaters of the Green River. And it hooks around and comes south, and of course then meets the Colorado there, well below Moab. This area, the Circuit Towers, Deep Lake, and the Titcomb Basin, or Fremont Peak, Gannett Peak, is all central area. One is a little more north than the other one. This is a little more southern here. This is the southern alpine area. The Fremont Peak on north through Gannett Peak is your glacial, that kind of alpine area, but it's still in the center of the range. It's really the heartland. The Wind River is quite long, and it has a dramatic heartland, and these are all mostly in the middle.
Okay, our next image here is a reflection and great clouds.
We're again here at Deep Lake. This was on the recent trip in 2011. What it's saying here, this is Temple Mountain and Deep Lake in the Wind Rivers. And we've been there quite a few times now today. What happens here is one of those skies where the clouds just take over, and you have a reflection to go with it, and a panorama, vertical, wide angle is called for. To me, it just is literally looking straight above you and straight down into the water, and keep everything else out of the way. Get out of the way. Just let it be. Record the moment. And this one is in the morning, early morning. Leftover clouds from some distant storm, probably over by the Tetons or somewhere in northern Nevada. And this is just leftover clouds that come by and will last maybe a half hour, not even that much maybe, and then they're gone. And this is one of those special moments when they just pass by, and you bring out the wide-angle lens and really let it go. And I believe there a polarizer was used on this, but I'm not sure. It does look like it, yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you that, because that's not only one way to make them really pop in the sky, but also in the water.
Yeah, and you balance it out pretty well without darkening one too much.
Yeah.
And that's the story here. It's a recording of a great moment of. I always am talking to participants about the fact don't have so much sky. Well, when clouds do their thing and you get dramatic, stormy, and it's natural to just really play up the sky. So there are no rules and regulations on this kind of thing. You just go for what you feel is and speaks to you. It's powerful to you personally, and this is what happens here. You just get out of the way, but record
Right.
it and get out of the way.
It's not going to last for long.
No.
Okay, well that's nice, and yeah, I'm sitting here looking at all of these and listening to you and thinking, time to pack my bag when we're done. I'm heading out.
I'll meet you there.
Yeah. Okay, the next image we have here, I believe it's the same lake.
Deep Lake again, a mid-morning, again, reflection, and just another moment in time. This is incorporating a piece of driftwood that kind of lends, where I'm trying to tie it together, the change on the trees at Timberline and the coming and going and the renewal. This is a piece of driftwood that kind of bringing it into the rock landscape with, again, very wide-angle lens. And the thing here is what I enjoy doing is connecting some together, some subjects that don't get in the way, not make a mess. You simplify, but on the other hand, they do make a complex quality of lending a spirit of the place and showing something more than a straight point and shoot. This is getting involved with the landscape, and I love to do this. This is important for me. So that's the story here.
Right. Good, strong foreground. And
very wide angle.
Yeah. And Deep Lake, what's the mountains in the background?
These are, again, looking south at Deep Lake with East Temple and Temple Mountain on the right. East Temple is on the left up there. And then there's a crag there. There's a little crag that's pretty steep that's climbers like. I forget the name of it, but right in front of East Temple.
Right. Okay, now this driftwood that's sitting on the foreground, in some ways, is that kind of an interruption to the peacefulness?
That's meant to be, yeah. It's that's what I tried to do, is connect those things together, and it is an interruption. It's meant to jog your visual memory slightly. Some people have driftwood that's in place that leads in, and that's the obvious way to draw your eye in with three-dimensional qualities. But I like to once in a while connect connect the two elements together, which don't fit really, and that is meant to be some tension. And it can be objectionable, and I don't mind that. But I like to do this once in a while, but I'm careful to avoid sticking it into peaks, where you have it coming up into the middle of a mountain or some tree, and everything gets awkward. It's kind of a challenge to place it so that it comes up in and ties together with the big subject in the landscape, and still connects you with a foreground matter without being in the way. But it is objectionable because I purposely put this one particularly up a little bit higher, so it's right into the middle of it's right into the shadow area of the East Temple.
Yes, it's interesting perspective because you have all this smooth boulders in the foreground, which are very peaceful. We're going to just move beyond those, but then the driftwood forces us to stop and think about it, look at it before we move on to the mountain. So that's kind of what I was wondering about your perspective.
Yeah, it's set up for I feel a tension point.
Yeah.
But I still wanted to connect them together. But it is makes for tension.
Right.
And the difference than the one. I mean, if we just looked at all these other images to put with it, right away you have the simplicity, the one right next to it, which nobody can see. But it has a very soft, gentle foreground. You just want to walk or just sit right there and contemplate the whole thing. With this driftwood, that was something maybe indicating the movement of glaciers, the nasty part of weather and Mother Nature, things happening, and It draws attention,
Mm-hmm.
not attention. I mean tension, and that can it's interesting, and it's like a little mini classroom right there.
Yeah.
How high do you go?
Yeah.
I mean, do you go low and have it right up in your face? And I've been ridiculed a little bit for that especially in the 70s. I would put rocks way up, they're almost phallic, and there may be some hint of that going on in my head or something.
Sure.
But it isn't. It's just making sure something catches your attention to be in the landscape. But it goes on fast. I don't make a big thing of this.
Yeah, it's very nice. Oh, the next image is Lupin, and
yes,
very popular with photographers. I have to admit I have a favoritism towards this type of subject too. So, was this a lucky day?
This was a continuation of that morning from the driftwood image down at Deep Lake. This is a nice day hike of a mile or two over toward Temple Mountain. This particular image is, I believe, the mound of Lupin looking north to the Circuit Towers again from the Temple Basin, Temple Mountain Basin. And they were I always am looking for round forms. Don't ever pass a round form in nature because it's so exciting. This is a half round, of course, but a dome of blue lupin perfectly in bloom.
Right.
They just were prime, and to be there, that is, again, the timeless moment. It may have lasted a week longer, and then they start to be blown apart and change. But this is just a very simple let it be foreground of beautiful lupin. And this is pretty high. This is above timberline. To run across that in probably early August is quite a gift.
Yeah.
I consider it a very important gift.
Yes. What is the best time to in the summer to go out for? Well, you get a little bit of snow, you get some wildflowers.
I think the last week of July, first week of August. And who knows, if this year is a little bit drier, there's less snowpack, you can come back into July, and it just depends how much you like going across snow, or you want to really come in on the end of the spring snowpack that's left. And so August, anywhere in the first 2 weeks of August is the best.
Yeah. Well, this is a beautiful shot. I'm trying to decide if I've seen it published anywhere, but I'm not sure.
No, it hasn't. No,
Yeah.
I don't think either this one or the one with Temple Mountain have not been, I don't believe they have been used. They haven't had a chance to.
Well, our next image, we're back to Drop Lake and the same mountains in the background. This time we have some boulders in the foreground. In fact, this is very similar to that double-page spread that's in the November 2012 issue about your trip into the Wind Rivers. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yes, this is along Deep Lake again, and this time I was drawn to this pyramidal shape erratic, which is just sitting there. It's like a mountain alpine museum here, and it's just an artifact, and it is actually an artifact in nature's museum. But again, the reflection in Deep Lake where really is very hard to get away from here, but it shows with different visits, and they are the same clouds, by the way, as that other image that had such a display of clouds. So this is as you work during a time that is prime, when it's quiet, the reflections are at their best, you keep searching for other things. You wander and look and place subjects that catch your eye and are connecting for a sense of place. And this is, again, it's a different shot. You have a little bit of the slick rock in front, primarily a wide angle, but not too wide angle, maybe 24 millimeter, nothing too exorbitant there. But again, I love the foregrounds that give a little juxtaposition of subject to a reflective mood. The story is reflective, but again, you have. I like to have interruptions of the story, in the scenery here. I like to do that, and this is another example of that. It's part of one of the same mornings we were looking at before. You just keep looking until it quits.
Oh, sure. Well, that's what I was going to ask you. And I imagine obviously it would vary at every location you go to. The Outdoor Photographer double-page spread from last November on your Wind River trip, you're slightly to the left, the boulder's more to the right, the large boulder that's in the foreground there. When you're at a spot that's so spectacular like this, do you just keep going and up, down, left, right until you really try lots of different things? Or how do you work a location or a scene like this?
Well, I would get up and be on location, very excited when you see the potential, and all night is kind of quiet and great. You have the whole sky to look at and enjoy overnight, and then the anticipation for the morning is dramatic. This is not a very big morning place, as there's quite a shadow formed by the mountains to the east. But I will get out and early, before the sun comes up, and start looking again what the light looks like to be, and that early glow can be dramatic. And again, the clouds could be doing something and making it very exciting for viewing. And so I'll look along the same shore, same place, but I've looked this over the night before usually, and I know it pretty well by then. But it's always a new experience. Every morning you get up on that and you go through the first images and try and capture enough of it. In other words, enough images to literally capture what you feel the place is doing for you. And it goes on, and then all of a sudden, okay, it's finished. The show's over. The curtain comes down, and it's time for breakfast and watching the mid-morning events. A whole new day coming, and usually by 9 o'clock, you're sort of thinking what you're going to do the day, during the day hikes. What do you follow with? But anyway, this is a session where you keep going until it's. Sometimes I've noted where it doesn't quit.
Right.
The light just shifts around, but the mood is so dramatic, and I've found it very hard to stop and say I have the ultimate image or the image that says everything to me. That doesn't happen very often.
Right. Now, this is such a stunning location. Is this a good, healthy backpack, or can you get in there on horse?
Well, for the hardy, it's definitely a backpack venture. I think it goes from up to Deep Lake from the big sandy entrance is probably right around 10 miles and some good uphill much of the way, especially uphill from Sandy Lake below the big lake where many people go. And great fishing, a lot of activities. It's about 10 miles from the big sandy opening, and this is all near Pinedale.
Okay.
It's a ways from Pinedale, about 20 miles south. But anyway, you go in the big sandy entrance, and quite popular. A little bit of a rough road, quite popular. It's not a day hike place.
Right.
If you do that at just noon, it's just noon shooting, and that is not fun.
No.
And you camp up a ways, and a lot of people were hiking in as a day hike over here and into Temple Basin, which is right just over that shadowed hill there. So it's a great day hike once you've camped below, but it was getting a little crowded on our last venture. I was amazed, and it wasn't very long ago that you wouldn't see anybody in this country.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Times
popular.
are changing for sure. So.
Yeah.
Okay, well, our final image here is a beautiful location. Slightly, it appears to me to be different than what we've been looking at so far, with this gnarled wood in the foreground overlooking a basin of lakes and some distant peaks.
Okay, Island Lake is the first trip going in, essentially. This is a little bit different area, but just a little bit north of Deep Lake and Circuit Towers entrance there. Here again is driftwood, which was there. I went up on a granite dome just behind to get a lofty view of a very popular island lake, and that's Fremont Peak and Sacagawea. The whole Titcomb Basin is on the left up there, but this is heartland of the Wind Rivers, and this is about a 13-14 mile jaunt in there. You can pack in whatever. We used to do that one-day hike with a pack, and then stay there, and then do different hikes around this area. It's kind of complex and a lot of variety, and great day hiking once you're in there for a camp and spend 3-4 nights. And then you venture out into different things, and you find interesting possibilities, and this was exactly that. Late afternoon, and a piece of driftwood that had obviously just grown right along on slick rock when it was alive, and just is literally almost petrified as it slowly decays, but it's the shape of sculpture is very fascinating to me. So this lends again for a near-far subject. So
yeah, and its patterns somewhat are similar to the rocks as far as lines and stuff like that.
Isn't
so
it? Yeah.
in black
That's
and
the
white,
connecting factor. Yeah.
If it was in black and white, they might not separate so much compared to being in color. And
well,
so
the Blue Lake is really coming across strong, but it would make a great black and white also. It's very high alpine, lots of contrast, would make a good black and white, but they'd have to try it. But the blue of the lake, to me, is significant enough to render the color rather than the black and white. But that's all just opinion, just personal preference.
Right. Yeah. What a spectacular location. And the last time you were in there, was that be your 2011 trip that was this outdoor photographer feature?
Well, not this one. This one is 1981, this Fremont Peak and Bridger stuff. The other ones we've been talking about are primarily the 2012 or 2011 trip into Deep Lake, and also the Green River Lakes. But this other one here, this is back in the 80s when I did quite a bit, and climbing also Fremont Peak, and this whole thing here was 80s when I was really excited about going up peaks, and when I'd get to a place I'd want to get up above and look out all over the place and sort of connect things together and find things up there. I did that in Yosemite quite a bit, and this is part of that same thing. Is well, you're at the bottom and you're here, now go look around and find the photograph. And it's fun to be able to go up on places that get a vantage point on an area, and it gives an overall concept of it. That's very exciting. It's exploring. It's literally exploring.
Yep.
Enjoy it very much.
Yeah, and understandably so. With all the spectacular locations we have available to go, of course, I'd like to add the Wind River to my bucket list, but how do you decide which places you're going to return to?
Well, that's just the point you made, and which ones to decide to return to. Many times I have returned to a place because I enjoy it, and it feels so strong, it talks to me so vividly. I sometimes about 3 times is very healthy in my bleep of time as a lifetime. Like to go back many places, see them 3, 4, 5 times if I can, because there's always something different. But they're the places I remember being very much impressed by, and they speak to you. And so I like to go back to them, and I'm looking forward to a couple of these that we've been looking at here to return to this summer with a pack trip.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so
I'm sure that will be another wonderful return experience.
It's so compelling.
Yeah.
To return, especially when you know it a little bit, you're familiar with it. It's great to go back and I change. I mean, since 1981, I know my whole vision of a place may change enough, and that'll be exciting to see how I see it now digitally.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, very nice, and another wonderful collection of photography. And want to thank you again, David, for joining us, and again sharing another powerful portfolio of just breathtaking images. And I want to mention to our readers that they can visit your website at davidmuenchphotography.com and find the links to your ebooks, your workshops, and your recent book, David Muench's The National Parks. And also remind readers that they can pick up a digital copy of last November, that would be 2012 November, issue of Outdoor Photographer has the article on David's 2011 trip into the Wind River Range, written by Ruth Rudner, and it is a really good article that kind of covers a lot of David's feelings and his approach to photography. And I'd also like to remind readers to pick up a digital copy of Outdoor Photographer, December 2012. Has an excellent article about David and his career, written by another noted landscape photographer, Tom Till. So, thanks again, David, for joining us for this latest conversation, and looking forward, as usual, to the next one.
Well, thank you for letting me be a part of this great excursion into photography in the landscape, and I appreciate your really having me flow through this and take time to express some of the reminiscences and also the how-tos of seeing some of these things. Thank you for letting me be a part.
Okay, well, thank you. Talk to you later.
Yeah, goodbye.